Hey guys, so about last week I went to see M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, and I have to say that I have never watched a movie that pissed me off so much that I had to do a rant about it and that I would talk about incessantly to my friends about how awful it was, but that's just how bad The Last Airbender was. And the thing is, I'm a big fan of the animated series that was on Nickelodeon, and it was such an awesome series. Like, the fact that M. Night Shyamalan has such great source material and he still managed to slaughter and rape the whole thing is a feat that's pretty amazing to me, and it just boggles my mind. And I never say the term boggles my mind. So if I was coming in with the perspective of someone who has never seen the animated series and doesn't know what's going on, I would still say that it's absolutely horrible because the storyline was not connected and it just did not flow together well. The actors were awful, but considering what the script they probably had to deal with, I guess it's pretty understandable since they didn't have much to work with. The acting was lifeless and unconvincing, and it was just pretty horrible. And the dialogue itself was awkward and stilted, and it wasn't anything you would hear in a natural conversation between normal people in real life. And the storyline itself was pretty confusing if I hadn't watched the animated series and didn't already know the storyline myself. So if I came in there knowing nothing, I'd walk out being like, what the fudge? What the hell? Like, nothing makes sense. They would jump around from topic to topic and from one detail to another, one scene to another, and there would be no connection, and they wouldn't explain certain things, or if they did, they would do it pretty poorly. And there's this one part about the moon and the ocean spirit. They didn't explain it well at all. I would be so confused if I walked in there never having watched the cartoons. There's just no character development. You didn't feel any sympathy, and you didn't connect with the main characters at all. It was just sitting there and watching a disaster unfold. However, I don't regret watching it because I guess it was pretty fun watching the atrocity unfold and seeing just how awful it was. And since me and my brother are such big fans of the animated series, we would have went to see it regardless of how many bad reviews it got. And I think the fact that it had so many bad reviews kind of drew me to see it too, just to see how bad it really was. Now I'm going to look at it from the perspective of someone who has seen the actual Avatar The Last Airbender, and because of it, I'm even more annoyed. First of all, I walked in there, and the first line that was in the movie pronounced the title wrong, and already I could see, like, the movie sinking into quicksand and dying. They called Avatar Avatar. Did you hear that? Avatar. Avatar. And they completely changed around the pronunciation of all the character names, or a lot of character names. Like, they changed Aang to Ong, Sokka to Sokka, Uncle Iroh to Iroh, and probably a whole bunch of others that I can't remember. But what was the point of that? How does that add to the storyline or make the story any better by changing the names around like that? I just don't understand. And every time someone would call Aang Ong, you could hear the audience kind of groan. And like a nerve in my brain would pop every time I heard Ong or Sokka or Iroh or Avatar. They left out a whole bunch of important details that were crucial to the storyline. Like, if you guys have seen it, Avatar Roku, he was an important part of the storyline. They left him out too. And there were some supporting characters I would have liked to see, like Suki, who is Sokka's love interest. And what was really sad was that none of the characters seemed to have any emotion. They were just like, it was like watching lifeless cardboard cutouts interacting with each other. Not once in the movie did I see someone genuinely laugh or cry or show like anxiety or was worried or excited, or it was just not human. There was no personality, no emotions. They were just really sad and serious and frowning all the time. And that made the movie pretty depressing for me because it's supposed to be pretty funny. Aang is supposed to be a really optimistic, playful child. And he takes things pretty lightly, and he's really funny and humorous, but in the movie he was just really serious and sad and depressing to watch. And I don't know, and I'm sorry to like pick on the actor Noah Ringer, but not once in the movie did I see him close his mouth. He had his mouth open all the time, and it was always downturned, like that. He was always frowning, and that was not how Aang is supposed to be at all. And Sokka never cracked a joke. Katara just had no personality whatsoever. And I didn't find any of the characters likable at all. They just told us that we were on the side of Katara, Sokka, and Aang. And when really their characters didn't convince us to like them and to be on their side. It was just assumed that we were on their side. But really, half the time, I was just praying for the Fire Nation to wipe out the whole world, or praying for the Fire Nation to wipe out everybody and have the movie be done with. There's not really much plot development. The characters didn't change or develop or grow at all throughout the movie. Another thing that bothered me was all the flailing they did before they did their bending. Like for air bending, fire bending, water bending, whatever. Like they would flail their arms around for a good 5 minutes before any actual bending occurred. And I was just on the edge of my seat half the time while they were flailing on their arms, worried that someone would attack them while they were doing all their stupid unnecessary movements. They could have all been wiped out and killed in the time it took them to flail their arms to get their bending done. It's just really inefficient fighting. Just to move one tiny wave or ripple in the ocean, it took Katara forever, and she was just dancing around uselessly. Furthermore, the makers of the film just basically screwed the Fire Nation because the Fire Nation couldn't make their own fire. They had to take their power from sources of fire that were already there, from existing sources of fire. And honestly, if the Fire Nation, that just made the Fire Nation look like a bunch of weak, pathetic fools, because how did they manage to wipe out the Airbenders and start such a crazy war when they're so weak? Couldn't the Airbenders or the Waterbenders even the Earthbenders, they could have just snuffed out the flames that were there and the Firebenders would be useless. So the fact that they were so weak is pretty unreasonable, and it doesn't make sense. And lastly is the race issue, which I don't know if you guys have heard about. There was the whole race controversy because all 4 of the main characters that M. Night Shyamalan picked were Caucasian. And in the Avatar The Last Airbender is actually Asian, and the characters themselves are Asian or Inuit. So originally, the villain or the antagonist in the first movie is Zuko, and Jesse McCartney was the actor that was chosen for him. But because of scheduling conflicts, which I think was probably just because of the race controversy, they replaced him with Dev Patel, who's an Indian actor, and he was in Slumdog Millionaire. But still, the fact remains that they chose white actors for Asian characters. It's like saying that Asian people aren't good enough to represent themselves in films. I mean, we're already underrepresented in Hollywood as it is, and now we can't even play ourselves. It's just pretty sad to me. A lot of people could say that, the whole meritocracy thing, that let the best actor get the role. But the thing is, when there is a white role, they choose the best white actor for it. So if there is an Asian character and it's an Asian role, then they should choose the best Asian actor for the role. And if it's a role that calls for any race, and race doesn't really matter, then they should choose the best actor of any race. But for this Avatar The Last Airbender, the main characters are supposed to be Asian. So they should have chosen the best Asian actor. But instead, on the actual casting call, the requirements, the specifications they had for the main characters were Caucasian or any other ethnicity. Okay, if they really wanted any ethnicity, they would have put all ethnicities instead of putting Caucasian or any other ethnicity. And I read up on M. Night Shyamalan's defense, how he defended himself on this, and he was like, this film is very diverse. There are plenty of people of color in the film. I even put black people in there, and that wasn't in the animated series. But okay, there are plenty of other ethnicities, of people of color in the film, but they were all supporting characters. None of them were main characters, because obviously we're not good enough to carry a film, right? We're not good enough to be main characters, but we are good enough to stand on the sidelines and have a couple of lines here and there. And I guess to sum it up, I just think they took out all the emotion and happiness and joy and life that was in the animated series that made viewers love it so much, and made something that was just so awful there are no words to describe it. That's it for my rant of today. I know it might have seemed pretty dramatic and stuff. I just wanted to get my point across, and I guess I was pretty worked up after I saw the movie, and even now, a week later, it still annoys me to no end. But yeah, it's just a movie, and I hope that for the next 2 movies, another director takes over, and there's new casting and a new direction, and that it'll turn out a lot better, and they'll do the series some justice. So if you guys have watched it, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you guys for listening to me ramble on incessantly, I guess. And have a good day.